Welcome to Personal Pension Radio Podcast, where you get unconventional insights into retirement and lifestyle design that actually work. You don't have to settle for the same tired Wall Street advice. Break away from the herd and learn how to achieve the retirement lifestyle of your dreams. And now, here's your host, the income engineer, Kraig Strom.
All right, back on Personal Pension Radio, episode number 106. Can you believe it? 106. I suppose I've got to do another 100. Just keep on going for you. So we're back on Personal Pension Radio. I am the income engineer, broadcasting from the very wet Personal Pension Radio studio workshop in Southern California. Not wet inside the studio, thankfully. The workshop is actually performing very well in this torrential downpour. Now, I understand those of you listening on the East Coast that you get some incredible rain, terrible flooding, and my heart goes out to you, and we're all, just hoping for the best when you're in those situations. Here in Southern California, when we have major rain, it is a big event because this state just does not know what to do with itself when it rains heavily. Seriously, the drainage systems, the roads, everything is just not at all even close to optimized for the rain. So it is a big event when it happens. Now, enough about the weather. What is Personal Pension Radio all about? Well, if you look at my title, if you listen to my title, The Income Engineer, that is actually a registered trademark title, because I am passionate about engineering optimized retirement income plans. And maximum retirement income is a topic that gets very little attention in the financial world. I mean, truth be told, the financial world spends billions and billions of dollars. I mean, literally billions. There was actually a survey at consumerfinance.gov put out this information that the financial world spends nearly $17+ billion each year on marketing. They spend $7.19 billion on digital marketing alone. Okay? So when I say the accumulation side, the save side of the retirement conversation gets a lot of attention, I mean, it really does. In my training as a financial advisor many years ago, that was the primary education, that the answer to retirement was save more money. That if you wanted to put a kid through college, you had to save more money. That if you lost your dog, you should have saved more money. If you get a flat tire, yep, you guessed it, you should have saved more money. The answer was save more money for everything, regardless. And the truth is that retirement income is not solved with a product. Optimized, maximized retirement income does not happen with life insurance. It doesn't happen with mutual funds or annuities or real estate. It doesn't happen with stocks or bonds. It happens with an integrated approach using all of these things if it's appropriate in your situation. The power of life insurance and mutual funds, or the benefits of real estate and annuities in a structured retirement income plan, is so much more powerful with those things together than it is if that maximum retirement income is attempted with one product versus another type of a mentality. It just doesn't work as well as an optimized strategic approach. And when you really think about it, thanks to the death of private pensions, the devaluation of Social Security benefits over the years from inflation, for example, and undeniable factors like increased taxes, fees, little nibbles all over your retirement plans, America is facing a retirement income crisis. No other way to say it. There is a retirement income crisis. And this show, my passion, I am focused on helping you pack your bags for both halves of the retirement journey. I want to help you build and protect your wealth, your lifestyle today and generationally without sacrificing legacy. So that's what the show is all about. Now, full disclosure, please. I am not an attorney. I am not a CPA, certified public accountant. I am a CFP, a certified financial planner professional. I'm also a chartered financial consultant. All that said, still, please don't act on things that you hear on my show as if that was advice for you. It's not. And especially, please, dear goodness me, don't act on things that you hear from financial entertainers. Financial entertainers that are better than they deserve have no licenses or oversight or regulations to watch out and protect the general public listening to their radio or podcast show. So please, meet with a qualified financial advisor to discuss your specific situation. Make sure that you do that. Now, I am happy to be that person. I love talking to listeners. I love answering questions. I love having these conversations. So please don't hesitate to go to Personal Pension Radio. Contact me through the website there. You can also find me, Kraig with a K, through Facebook and LinkedIn and Twitter and YouTube. You can find me all over the place. Kraig with a K, Strom. All right, let's step right into the first segment, which is Watch Your Step. Now, this question comes up often. And it came up recently in a public discussion area that I was at an event, and it's this question. The question is, let's see if I can get my tongue working right. Am I diversified? Well, I've heard this on television shows and radio shows and call-in shows where they do a section of their show called Am I Diversified? And someone says, I've got this mutual fund and I've got this stock and this bond and this investment. Am I diversified? And the pundit or financial entertainer says, let me calculate and check this and check that and look at the individual specifics on this, that, and the other thing, and comes back and gives their prognostication that you are diversified or you're not diversified. I have a real issue with that. If you think about what does diversification really mean, right? Diversification is, if you get it right, is that you have a basket of assets that don't all move in the same direction at the same time, right? So you've got bonds or stocks or real estate or gold, whatever it might be. You look at your basket of assets, and if your basket of assets move in different directions relative to everything in the basket, you might have a diversified portfolio of assets. But if your assets move in identical patterns on a chart, are you really diversified? I want you to really think about that. If you were to put your investments from your 401k or your investment account statement, if you were to put them on a chart, would they move up and down in identical patterns? If the answer is yes, I would argue that you are not diversified because your assets are all moving in the same directions. An easy way to check to see if you are diversified is to use a free tool at Yahoo Finance or Google Finance or Bing Finance. I use Yahoo Finance and their chart program there on the Yahoo Finance. You can actually look up your mutual fund or investment, your stock, and you can run and look at a 5-year chart. So you can see how that investment does over the last 5 years up until current times. It's a real simple tool to use. So here's what I would suggest. Let's use a 401k type of a situation where you have investments in a 401k and you're wondering, are you diversified? Now, you go and you take your 401k statement. And let's say, I just looked at 2 different 401k statements this last week, and each one of these 401k statements had, I believe, about 5 or 6 different mutual fund investments that these individuals had their money invested in. Okay? So we take those 5 and we go to Yahoo Finance and we look up the first one. We look up the first one and then we do a 5-year chart so we can see that mutual fund investment going up and down for the last 5 years. Then we use an option within that Yahoo Finance chart program to compare. There's actually a button in the program or in that chart that says compare with a little plus sign next to it. And you click on that little button and you can add the next mutual fund in your 401k statement. And you compare it. And then you add another one and you add another one. And pretty soon you've got 5 lines that are charted over the last 5 years. So let's say you have 5 positions in your 401k, and now you have charted them out on your Yahoo Finance chart. Take a look at the chart. What do you see? Do you see each of your 5 mutual funds or investments moving up and down at the same times? Do you see your assets moving in lockstep? Do you have most of them go up at one point in time and then they all go up? They go, when you have a downturn, they all go down at the same time, right? If you're seeing what I see most of the time, let me explain. Most of the time, I see a portfolio of investments like the one I'm describing going up and down in lockstep, meaning they move up, they move down, they move up, they go flat, they move down, all at the same time. So they are not diversified. Clearly not. If they're in lockstep, they're all basically moving up and down together. The best thing you can do, in my opinion, as a professional certified financial planner, is to make sure that you have the lowest cost option. That means check your fees. Folks, please hear me on this. The fees that you pay on your 401k, your mutual funds, your annuities, your life insurance, whatever it is, those are the most important, least paid attention to parts of your investment world. Check your fees. Because if you have 5 different investment options in your 401k and they're all basically moving up and down together, why not have the least expensive option to get that same up and down movement, right? Check your fees. I rarely, I cannot remember, let's just say that, I cannot remember a time in the last several years that I have checked someone's investment portfolio in this manner and first found them to be adequately diversified. Nope, doesn't happen. Most of the time that is not happening. And 2, I've not found anybody that actually had the majority of their position in the most efficient, lowest cost option. So, 2 things. Use Yahoo Finance, use some Google Finance, use some chart to test this. You don't need to pay a financial planner or a stockbroker or financial advisor to do this. You can easily grab your 401k statement and go to Yahoo Finance. If you have questions about it, about what to do, what to choose, what to select, give me a call. Go to personalpensionradio.com. Just contact me through the site. It's super easy. I'm happy to discuss this in more detail with you and about your specific situation. So please, don't hesitate to give me a call on that. Now, let's jump into this listener question. It was actually a listener question, somebody listening to me in a public meeting. We were in a New Year's Eve kind of business get-together after work, and someone heard me mentioning the economic rules of retirement income. And I expressed to them, my summary of it, and then I said, hey, I'm going to use this as a reminder to go over this on my next podcast episode. And so that's what we got here. So they asked about this question they asked about was a statement that I made, which is the economic rules of retirement income are very different than retirement savings or retirement accumulation. The economic rules of retirement income, very different. Okay. So I want to start by saying this. I think most people know the story of Edmund Hillary and Tenzing Norgay. Now, Sir Edmund Hillary and his Sherpa, Mr. Norgay, were credited in 1953 as being the first people who summited Everest. Okay? I think everybody pretty much knows that. Now, what most people don't know is that Edmund Hillary is not necessarily attributed as being the first person to summit Everest. Technically, George Mallory, I believe somewhere around the 1924 area. So in 1924, George Mallory was actually on Everest at the summit, within 800 feet of the summit when he was last seen. Are you getting my point if you know your history? So technically, it is believed that George Mallory is the first person to summit Everest. What's the big difference, though? The big difference, if you know your history, is that Edmund Mallory and Mr. Norgay, they made it back down the mountain, and sadly, George Herbert Mallory did not. They did not find him and his partner for 70 some odd years later, until 70 some odd years later. He made it to the summit. He didn't make it back down. That is the key to retirement income planning. You must save for retirement up the mountain, but you also need to be ready for income on the way down. The rules for climbing a mountain are very different than descending a mountain. You pack your gear and your bags differently for the descent as opposed to the ascent. So think about this. If you're climbing a mountain, you actually can lean in and face the upward slope. You can use your hands. You can use your arms, your forearms, your shoulders, your back muscles, your legs. You can dig your feet in. You can use a pickaxe to pull yourself up. You have upper body strength working with your lower body. But on the descent, you're often leaning away from the mountain, facing downhill. You're digging in with your heels in many situations. You're tired. You're so tired from having gone up the hill. And you are now descending in a very, very different manner. In the retirement world, the ascent is the accumulation savings phase of retirement. And the descent is the distribution phase. The distribution phase, like mountain climbing, completely different than the ascent. So the financial rules, the economics of retirement distribution is 180 degrees different than accumulation. So here's a few examples, because I want to get right to it. And I'm going to give you a special offer. If you want to dive into this in more detail, this is the same offer that I gave to my friend at the New Year's business meeting that I mentioned. So I'm going to dive into a few of these, but if you want to know the entire conversation, just send me an email. You can send an email at Kraig with a K, K-R-A-I-G, Kraig with a K at kraigstrom.com. So Kraig at kraigstrom.com, and just in the subject line, economics of retirement income. Just write economics of retirement income, and I'll know that you want me to send you the email where I have 2 video tutorials, links to that goes through the entire discussion in a lot more detail. But let me cover some of these important pieces just to give you a taste for this. The economic rules of retirement income. So let's discuss the first one. Inflation. The economics of inflation, well, most people hear the word inflation, and if I asked you, is inflation good or bad? Well, I don't hear too many people generally say inflation is good. We've been taught that inflation is generally bad. The reality is that as you accumulate and save money for retirement, the inflationary forces around us cause the value of our investments to go up. Stocks and bonds and real estate, etc., They increase in value in large part due to inflationary pressure around us. So inflation as an accumulation piece is a good thing. The value of a business rises. The value of real estate rises. Now, on the other hand, when you get to the top of that mountain, when you summit the retirement mountain and you're ready to make the turn and head back down into distribution phase, inflation is now your enemy. Inflation is now causing everything that you might need to buy with your fixed retirement assets, for example, is now more expensive every year. The cost of living goes up and up and up. When we're not in a savings mode anymore, taking advantage of the inflationary upturn, we're now having to fight against it. So totally different. Now, the next one I want to cover is this idea of dollar cost averaging. Dollar cost averaging is a concept that basically says during your accumulation years, your saving years, if you have a consistent investing plan where you invest in your 401k or you invest in a certain investment monthly, every month, month over month over month, regardless of the ups and downs of the market, you will end up buying a certain amount of shares when the price is up, and you might buy more shares of that particular investment when the price is down. And over time, overall, the prices rise, and those shares that you bought when the investment was low help to give you a better overall average gain. Your better overall average because you bought more shares when it was low, and it all averages out to a better return on your investment. That's the way it's supposed to work if it works for you. What no one talks about, no one in the financial world talks about is reverse dollar cost averaging. Reverse dollar cost averaging is exactly what it sounds like. Because when you are accumulating wealth, the one thing that you are not doing to your investment accounts, we hope, is taking money out. What you're doing is investing more money in, more and more and more. So when the market falls, you're actually putting more money in at a perfect time for an accumulation strategy. Reverse dollar cost averaging comes into play after you summit the retirement mountain. Now you are pulling money out of your retirement accounts, and when the market goes down, does your lifestyle stop and go away? Does your lifestyle all of a sudden pause when the markets drop? Well, of course not. You still want to maintain your lifestyle. So now when the market is low, you may have to sell or liquidate investments at the worst time so that you are now reversing the dollar cost averaging benefits if you had those benefits on the other side. Totally the opposite. Now it's a significant risk to your longevity as far as your income is concerned. Now, how about this one? This is a big one that if you haven't heard me say it, if you've never heard your financial advisor say it, please listen to this one very carefully. Average rate of return versus sequence of returns. Average rate of return is an accumulation term. It's an accumulation phrase that you take a certain amount of money and you invest, and over a certain period of years or a certain period of months, you can average out what your return was. The only way that average rate of return works is if you're not taking any money out. As soon as you start taking money out, you reach the top of the retirement mountain and you start taking money out of your accounts, average rate of return means nothing. Now we worry and are very concerned about the sequence year by year, month by month of those returns. We no longer get to use average rates of return because average rates of return only work if we're not taking money out. And that's an accumulation side of the journey. Sequence of returns is a distribution part of the journey. And now we're concerned about what is the year by year by year rate of return, not the average. And the final one I want to go over is just to make sure that you remember, this is the big one, is mortality, right? Mortality or time. Time. So as it relates to climbing the mountain of retirement, the longer you have to save up your money, the better. That doesn't necessarily translate to mountain climbing because you don't necessarily want the climb to be as long as possible. But as it relates to your retirement savings, the longer you have to accumulate your assets, the better. But when you reach the top of that retirement mountain, now the downhill distribution phase could be seriously risked. Let me see if I can pronounce the ED at the end of that word. You could have some serious risk depending on how long you're going to live. So now mortality and time, right, becomes a serious risk in retirement. It's one of the reasons that the retirement income is such a risky conversation, is that we don't know how long we're going to live. It's a difficult planning factors is mortality, right? So I told you I was just going to cover a few of these things, 4 of these things, but there's a lot more to this conversation. If you want to see a detailed example of sequence of returns risk and the rest of the economic rules of retirement, please send me an email at Kraig@kraigstrom.com. That actually is directly to me. I'm happy to answer it, and I will send you back that complete tutorial with information and links so that you can watch it at your leisure. So that's going to conclude the show today. Trying to keep these nice and short and bite-sized, listening to your feedback as always. I really, really appreciate you being here. Please share this with your friends, share it with your coworkers, and remember, please take action. The future belongs to those who take action. Get off the log. Don't be that frog still sitting on the log. Remember, the 4 frogs on a log are still on the log because 3 of them decided to jump. They never actually did. So please take action today to put your financial house in order. Get off the log. Make sure that you take time. This is so important. You can get in touch with me. I gave you my email address earlier, plus personalpensionradio.com is where you can contact me directly there. Really, again, appreciate you being here. Excited to talk to you next time. Take care.
Thank you for listening to the Personal Pension Radio podcast. If you missed anything during the show, that's okay. We took the notes for you. Check the show notes for links, offers, and a full transcript. And don't forget to head over to personalpensionradio.com and download your free retirement income report. While you're there, we would appreciate some iTunes love. Please leave us a fantastic rating on iTunes by going to personalpensionradio.com/iTunes. Thanks again for listening. Now for the disclosure. Information presented is for educational purposes only and is not intended for solicitation, sale or purchase of any security or financial product. Be sure to first consult with a qualified financial advisor and your tax professional before implementing any strategy discussed here. The term personal pension refers to a marketing name designed to educate future retirees and retirees about the economic principles behind creating their own pension-like income. The term personal pension is not intended to be confused with a defined benefit pension plan offered by an employer or by a government entity.